I don't know what David just said, but I hope it was nice. It's echoey back there.
So, Biz, we're here at One Young World.
We are?
We are. Would you like to talk a bit about what you think the biggest obstacles are in society that tech could solve?
Sure, we'll start out with the bad news. Well, there's a lot of problems. Two that come to mind are climate change and the disruption of the workforce from artificial intelligence. And I think with AI, there's an opportunity to solve that problem using the problem. So, my fear with AI is that and job displacement is that there's not enough people thinking of of how to handle it and how to deal with it. And there's a lot of people thinking like, oh, that'll happen somewhere down the line, and I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than people think. And we need to be thinking of ways to possibly even use AI to figure out, okay, so what traits does a truck driver have that with some training he could be, a professional Minecraft player or something like that. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but like there probably is, the answers probably are crazy. Because it could either be like this great age of enlightenment where we get to move on to doing these things that, only humans can do, and the true promise of AI would be to amplify the best traits of humanity. Or we could end up in this nightmare scenario where we have 60% jobless rate. But I think that's an example of where you could use the tech in question to attempt to solve the problem that's going to happen.
How's Twitter using AI to solve some of the problems that have come up?
Well, AI is sort of a overused term a lot, but we've been there's a lot of stuff we're doing with both machine learning and artificial intelligence to work on what we're it's a big initiative that we've embarked on to improve the health of the public conversation. So we simply can't read all the tweets to figure out which ones are good and which ones aren't good. We're using technology to look at the behavior of accounts, and certain behaviors are usually associated with content that is generally unwanted. So now that we've moved to a ranked timeline, we're able to look at hundreds of signals of behavior and use machine learning so that that's scalable to then downrank the content that's likely to be toxic or disinformation or misinformation or hyper-partisan or you name it, hate speech, all that sort of thing. And then, there's technology out there that I've seen that I thought we were 25 years away from. I mean, and I've seen it, there are people there's AI that can create a video of anyone saying and doing anything, and it's absolutely real. Like, that definitely happened. And we need to work with these companies to be able to identify this deep fake content and then watermark it and alert people to the fact that like this never happened, even though you're watching it on video. And this is a big problem too, because even if you're told after the fact, hey, that never happened, artificial intelligence created that video, your brain still, you're like, yeah, but I still saw it. I still believe it. I still think it happened. Like, it didn't happen. She was in Alaska at the time. No, I believe it. I saw it. It's like, ugh. So we really need to, we need to be ahead of that game. Like in old-fashioned days, it was spam, and now it's artificially created deep fake video, and it's really gotten sophisticated.
How do you think Twitter's mission has evolved then in line with the way that these new problems are coming up, like fake news?
Well, it's funny, we actually never articulated a mission statement like a lot of companies have. Like Google has organized the world's information and make it universally accessible, and that's a great mission statement for them because it attracts the kind of super nerd that wants to work on that problem, and that's great. And we need them to keep doing that. And I want them to keep doing that. We didn't actually, so we never actually made one of those up. Our thing was just kind of like, free speech is great, you know? And when I returned to Twitter it's almost a year and a half ago now, things weren't great. And so I thought if we did have a statement that would unify the team, that would be great. And I know this is semantics, but a mission is something that's completed or failed. And so I decided that we would have a purpose statement. And so together with Jack, I developed a purpose statement, which is, we serve the public conversation. And if we serve the public conversation, by extension, we're responsible for the health of the public conversation. And I think it's important that that word responsible is surfaced, because times have completely changed since we invented Twitter, and there was a time sort of in the first half of Twitter's life where it was the general thinking was, oh, it's a platform like the telephone company, and what people say on the phone is their business. It's nothing to do with us. And so what people say on the platform is, we're not responsible for it. And one of the things I was saying when I first came back was, we need to tell the world that we're going to take responsibility for what is said on our platform. And the lawyers didn't like that at all. And they're really good too. I would go in and I would say, this is what we should say. We take responsibility for what happens on our platform. And then after 15 minutes, I would leave convinced that we shouldn't do that. And then the next day, I'd be like, wait, what happened? And I finally won that argument by saying, look, I still believe that, this is an admittedly Western thought, but I still believe that freedom of speech is a fundamental human right, and I don't believe that the freedom to have your speech amplified by Twitter is a fundamental human right. You're not born as a baby with that. You should earn that, right? Yes. So that I finally won an argument against a lawyer, and we really changed our tune. And so now we're very committed to taking responsibility for what happens on our platform, what's said on our platform, and the health of the public conversation, the safety of the people who use Twitter, all of those things. And I think it's important, especially now, that a tech company says, like, hey, we're going to take responsibility. And that's just the first step towards being trusted. And we want to be one of the, if not the most trusted brands in the world. But right now, if you're a tech company, you're already in negative trust space. We're going to have to work for years just to get to the level of banks. And then, and then keep going. But, it starts with taking responsibility and being transparent about our mistakes and saying what we did wrong and admitting to it and moving forward and that kind of stuff.
So thinking about the public conversation, one of the big things has been Twitter becoming a vehicle for social change in some kind of way. How do you anticipate that evolving as society moves on, and what role does Twitter have in shaping that conversation or not?
Well, I mean, I guess at its most base level, or the simplest thing to say is that Twitter is, it's the place where people can speak truth to power. It's the great leveler. I mean, anyone can say anything, and that tweet can get retweeted by someone who has a huge following, and a relatively obscure person can all of a sudden have their thought amplified across the world. And another thing I think that Twitter helps with is you may be feeling something but afraid to say it, and then you see someone else say it on Twitter, and then you see the reaction they get, and you think, you know what? I think I'm going to say it too, because I see what happened there. So, and then all of a sudden we have these conflagrations, these movements that happen because people feel emboldened to go ahead and speak their mind, and bring about the change that they want to see.
What movements have given you cause for optimism about the way social media can reshape our societies?
I mean, more recently, the Me Too movement. That's just been an incredible thing to watch, and going back in time, the Arab Spring was a big, sort of a big awakening moment for us to see what people are capable of if you just if they're given the right tool at the right time. I always like to say that people are fundamentally good, and they'll prove it to you every day if you can provide them the tool to do that.
That sounds a little different from the move fast and break things ethos that's often associated with Silicon Valley. What do you think is a better message moving forward for tech companies?
It's funny, like this whole idea of like failure is great. Like failure sucks, like I think the better way to say it is that one should manage for quick recovery from failure. Maybe it's not as catchy as saying fail fast, but if you know that you can get right back up again, then you're more likely to take those risks, because you know that you're going to be able to keep going, and it's not going to be the end of the world. Because I don't like to break things, and I don't like to fail. It doesn't feel good. But I do like to try new things, and I do like to iterate quickly. So, yeah, I mean, and these are the things you kind of have to do when you work in an environment where everything's really fast-paced. You do have to work fast, and you do have to be willing to try new things at the cost of it not working, but that's okay, because every time something doesn't work, that's like, okay, we won't do that, that doesn't work. So yeah.
I think we probably have time for one last question.
Okay.
I was wondering, in the trajectory of Twitter and how it's evolved, as Twitter becomes more diverse, how do you think that's changed the way that Twitter operates and the kind of service it provides its users?
Well, I do think a company kind of takes on the persona. First, it takes on the persona of the founders and the first entrepreneurial people that join, and that kind of sticks with it. And then the service itself does also take on the persona of the people who are working at the company that provide the service. And so the more diverse our workforce becomes, the more of a diversity of angles of any particular piece of news or information we can provide to people who use the service. And then that's really important in this day and age where there's truth and there's truth, and if you can provide a diversity of and a selection of content on the same story from all kinds of different viewpoints, and you can share every side, then people can make a more informed decision about what's true and what's untrue.
Great. Well, I think that's the end of our 5.
Yeah, I see a blinking red number. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you to Naina and Biz. Thank you, guys. That was fantastic.
Thanks, everybody.